I think being a British child gave me anxiety. And it's not just because I could never remember the words to my school assembly prayer, and it's not just because I saw the Freddo go from 5p to 45p in real time, and it's not even because every night I saw this thing from In the Night Garden and genuinely believed that I'd turn into this when I died. Children's programming here in the UK genuinely, and I don't say this lightly, wanted children to die. It was so jarring to witness as a kid, because I would watch the Australian and Canadian shows that would air over here that I would have to wake up at 3 AM specifically to watch, so none of my classmates believed me that they were real shows, and I mean, can you blame them? I would see these shows and they were sometimes funny, sometimes cool, sometimes interesting, and then this? I'd be face to face with the kind of beast that Dorian Gray would see in his painting. It's no wonder that I'm into dark fantasy and horror now. I mean, I didn't have a choice. I was blasted out of the womb and had to confront the idea that if I'm a bad liar, I die. Ironically, I'm kind of nostalgic for these old shows now. This weird genre of kids horror that dominated the early 2000s. And I've seen plenty of people talk about Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark? No, I'm not afraid of the dark. I'm afraid of this thing. And we're gonna talk about it. British kids horror. The kind of horror you could only come up with after being exposed to Mr. Blobby all your childhood. A kind of grisly tale for a gruesome kid.
Then beware! Things are getting a bit spooky in Grizzly Tales! You get the idea.
Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids is a series of cautionary tales made for kids whose parents don't explain why something is bad, just that children should listen to grown-ups, and what's scarier than neglectful parenting? Every episode is fairly formulaic. Uncle Grizzly, caretaker of the Squeam Screen Cinema, introduces us to the story of a misbehaving child. We then flash to said story in which the child, due to their misbehaviour, receives some form of cruel and unusual punishment, like being killed, being poisoned, being mutilated, being eaten. Mind you, the misbehaviour in question is like being annoying at worst.
La 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 la.
So not only does the punishment never fit the crime, but also it's clear that even threat of death didn't stop me from being an annoying kid. Jamie Ricks, who wrote the Grizzly Tales books and produced the show, started his writing career by creating a story just to scare his own son into eating, lest the spaghetti man turn him into lasagna. And now, thanks to Lasagna Boy over here, his dad's horror stories are our problem? Listen, I was a good kid. You can't get more seen, not heard than mute. I was being traumatized for no reason. And Jamie Ricks' CV is the first link on his Wikipedia page as a citation for his birthday. That's not particularly relevant to anything, I don't think I've ever seen a resume used as a Wikipedia reference. And right here on his CV, we can see how seriously he took childhood trauma. Giving people childhood trauma, that is, because this show had a 6-season run from January 2000 to October 2006. It returned in 2011 for 2 more seasons. 105 episodes, all revolving around the same examples of misbehaviour, like not eating your meals, being jealous of other kids, picking your nose, deforesting the Amazon to expand your megacorporation, totally normal things that every British child does. But don't worry, these rotten offspring are punished accordingly by being eaten, being killed, lobotomized, killed, kidnapped, being killed by the ghost of an indigenous person whose homeland you gentrified for capital gain, being eaten. I'm obviously using the term misbehaviour very loosely because the show had such a strange moral compass. Colonising a native land for a business venture is bad, yes, but not something I was doing as a kid. But what is equally deserving of death, according to this show, is generally displaying traits of neurodivergence. Like this episode, for example, Season 3, Episode 4, has the most confusing lesson. Hey kid, don't be sad about moving to Devon because an Icelandic couple bought your house, otherwise your parents will turn into some kind of Labubu-esque beasts and eat you. I'm gonna be honest, this is not something I've had to reckon with in my life, but you never know. okay. I really thought quicksand and being devoured by my kin would be bigger issues growing up. If we're gonna be honest, the horror is kind of meta here, because yes, the stories themselves aren't scary, especially as an adult watching them, but clearly this narrator is evil, and any parent that agrees with this kind of scared straight method of parenting is evil. Children are meant to be seen and not heard, except when they can't be seen at all because you've killed them? Okay, back to the show, sorry. I definitely remember the animation being a lot better, I will say that, but I think that's the case when you go back and watch any show that you grew up with. But I think that I remember the animation being a lot better because the scariest part of every episode is this introduction. Claymation has always had that kind of edge to it that's unnerved me. I mean, I've watched objectively scary movies like Saw, Misery, Possum. I've seen shockumentaries that have had, for the most part, a lesser impact on me than Coraline did. I watched it in theatres and yeah, maybe I did shit myself and yeah, okay, maybe I did cry like a baby and sure, maybe I was a baby. Okay, I was 8. Same difference. I was scared. It was scary. That being said, something I definitely overlooked as a child that adds to this kind of spook factor is the fact that the narrator voices every character. It definitely gives the bedtime stories being read to you by your weird uncle who actually isn't even related to you and is just your dad's friend kind of vibe. And if this is all too scary for you, don't worry, the episode and moral descriptions are just as good as watching the real thing. Amos Sterling wants to become famous, so when his daughter is born, he prepares for her fame. However, this secretly attracts an old man known as the Childhood Snatcher, who visits Amos's daughter the night before each birthday and removes her hair. When Betty finds her daughter being turned into a pale old lady, she's understandably furious at her husband. You know what? Fair enough. Fair enough. If my daughter hit me with the honey I aged the kids in an episode called The Childhood Snatcher, by the way, yeah, I'd be a little ticked off as well. The moral of this one is to act your age and not your shoe size. What the hell? Justice for the kid. They didn't do anything this time. Act your age. She's geriatric now. If she acted any older, she'd be dust. I mean, I know we have an aging population in this country, but Jesus Christ. It was at this moment that I discovered that the channel that this show aired on, CITV, the so-called Children's Independent Television channel, had shut down. Well, it has been shut down since 2023, but how? I mean, I know old things are always replaced, but that was a thing I liked. And I'm not old. Rest in peace, CITV. It was also at the same moment that I discovered that the channel that this next show aired on, the CBBC, the so-called Children's British Broadcasting Corporation, is going to be shut down this year, but I don't get it. I mean, how are the kids watching Tracy Beaker if there's no... Do kids these days even know who Tracy Beaker is? No, this is all wrong. Rest in peace, CBBC. I'll spare you from the comedic rule of threes, because in fact the rest of the shows I was going to talk about all either aired on CBBC or CITV, which kinda sucks, right? I mean, in the UK we have about 480 TV channels, 24 of which were children's entertainment channels, but now only 9 are seemingly alive and well. I checked on Wikipedia and the children's channel closure was called a demise. Oh my god. It's such a small difference in wording, but it paints such an intense picture of death of children's broadcasting. I mean, the writing was on the wall when Michael Grade, the ITV chairman, explained that it did not make commercial sense to generously invest in a children's channel, despite the commercial success of a majority of shows that were airing around the time of this decision. An obvious rebuttal to this is, good, kids shouldn't be in front of a screen all day anyway. And sure, but they are. They're going to be. And if it's between intentionally produced TV edutainment or profit-driven YouTube slop, I'd rather my kid engage with the former. Especially considering, and this is a minor issue in the grand scheme of things, YouTube slop is impersonal. Even for the kids shows that do air across the Commonwealth or even the globe, it's not really just about the shows, is it? A highlight of these channels were the locally produced bumpers, moments between the audience and the hosts.
We're just normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
Birthday celebrations, local news, visits to your school or your city. Sure, Cocomelon is an international phenomenon, but we've lost the cultural and local significance of children's entertainment in favour of pregnant Elsa. I don't know. Rest in peace, PBS Kids. Because of the cultural significance of children's television, unfortunately, if you did not watch this show as a child, I cannot thoroughly express to you just how iconic it was. We seem to, as a country, even now, have a fascination with deception-based games. Okay, I wrote that while I was watching Would I Lie to You, and I genuinely can't think of any other examples, but for the uninitiated, Trapped was... well, it was televised among us. In the fiction of the show, 6 children called Unfortunates are brought to a strange island tower in the middle of the sea. Once there, the kids are instructed to make it out of the tower by completing 6 tasks. The twist is, one of these children is given a secret earpiece. Their job is to sabotage, deceive, and lie to the other children to ensure their own safety. The host of this show is yet another caretaker, the caretaker of the tower called the Caretaker. And yes, he looks like this. Sometimes people look like this, and it's fine. We don't need to talk about it anymore. As a kid, I was under the impression that he was a child who failed in escaping the tower and had been locked here ever since, but according to the wiki, he's just some guy. Some guy, by the way, who has this weird femdom dynamic with The Voice, a mysterious mouth reminiscent of Rocky Horror, whose ultimate role is to guide the saboteurs in their quest to mislead their teammates. I guess Trapped was a frequent rerun on CBBC because I remember the show so vividly, despite it having only 52 episodes. 4 seasons from 2007 to 2005, with the last season being rebranded as Trapped Ever After. It was identical to the other seasons, so identical that they took most of the iconic games from the first 3 seasons and made them just a little worse. And here's what I was referring to with the importance of television on local culture. Each episode of Trapped is named after the city where the episode's kids are from. So, for example, Season 1, Episode 11 is called Liverpool, because the kids in this episode are from Liverpool. But can you imagine that? As a kid, seeing other kids from your town, maybe even friends from your school, being represented on television. They never got to my town, for some reason. Dude, I would have been such a good saboteur. Actually, never mind. I just remembered why the show spooked me as a kid. These children do not want to be here. Look at this kid. Oh my god, he's seen the horrors. As excited as being on the show must have been, I do feel for the kids who were randomly selected to be saboteurs, especially during the trivia rounds.
People with curly hair have bigger brains than people with straight hair.
That's a lie. You must convince them it's true or you're trapped.
We're all sitting here, we've all got straight hair and we go on to the show, so...
Me when I'm forced to do eugenics propaganda because The Voice told me to. Now, the joy of any old kid show is that there's usually a tie-in flash game on the channel's website, and Trapped was no exception. If seeing your hometown represented, or not yet represented, wasn't enough, you could take part in similar games with kids from around the country playing online. The game even had a chat feature, albeit a limited one for online safety, with the ability to accuse someone of being the saboteur. The whole thing is very impressive to me, considering the game was created by just a 2-person team. It sounds fun. Come on, let's play it.
Join a game. Go out. Join a game. Go on. Join a game. Join a game. Join a game. Go on. Oh dear.
Right, okay. Well, what's scarier than the death of Flash games? Ooh. In case you're as terrified as I was as a child, I'll give us a break to talk about Ministry of Mayhem, a Saturday morning variety show on CITV hosted by Stephen Mulhern, Holly Willoughby, and Michael Underwood. I think Michael is a teacher now, but if you're even vaguely familiar with British television, then you know Stephen and Holly. I know, I said this wasn't going to be scary, but I need to talk about Stephen Mulhern. Think of him like the barnacle that has been latched onto your TV since 1998. Britain's Got Talent, Dancing on Ice, Deal or No Deal, Catchphrase. It's genuinely harder to think of shows he hasn't presented. The same goes for Holly, by the way. These days she's known for being buddy-buddy with Boris Johnson, being drunk on TV that one time, and missing the Queen's funeral in a controversy that we apparently call Q-Gate. Yes, we do take queuing that seriously. In my opinion, both Holly and Stephen are annoying at best, but not scary. So why am I talking about them now? Well, Ministry of Mayhem is, or rather was, another example of a time when we took children's entertainment seriously. Kids would send in letters that the hosts would respond to, play games, watch music performances, and sometimes watch the mischief of Scratch and Sniff, a pair of puppet hyenas who were named by the fans. In fact, they were so beloved that they even got their own TV show. Those outrageous hyenas have their own show on CITV, all about getting rid of stupid kids. Right, well, okay, yeah. It's another game about seemingly killing children. But don't worry, they don't kill the ones who misbehave or can't lie convincingly. This time, you die if you're stupid. As far as I can remember after watching the show last week on YouTube.com, this show was just a quiz show. It had weird segments where you guess what's in one of the hyena's pants, but it was mostly just trivia, and if you get a question wrong, you're sent to the cooking pot of peril. But don't worry, it gets spookier, because this show is lost media. That's right, Scratch and Sniff's Den of Doom is lost, gone, never to be seen again. Scratch, where are you? If only we could watch this show somewhere or see it. I don't want to appear disingenuous here, so I'll just say that I don't particularly care about lost media. I think the hunt for cartoons, shows, pilots that were once in the public eye but have since disappeared, it's fascinating, but I'm no lost media hunter. I do think it's a shame that the effort of an entire production team and cast can just vanish from public record, but I really wouldn't know where to look if you paid me. Okay, fine, I'll try, but no promises, okay? Den of Doom aired on CITV sometime around early 2007 for just one season, with this one season being on rerun up until 2011, before being removed from the CITV schedule list. How many episodes this season had is contested. Some sources say there were up to 15, others say there were as many as 26. Regardless, only 10 of these episodes are completely found. As for the rest, we either have clips or nothing. Other than the episodes or clips, we also have these unused promotional images courtesy of the fan wiki. As soon as my search for the rest of the episodes led me to a furry vor website with a thread discussing the show, I knew the lost media hunting lifestyle wasn't for me. No hate to the furry vor community, but no, this show wasn't a barely disguised fetish. Not everything you see in a kid's show is a barely disguised fetish. Fortunately, I didn't need to delve much deeper in the search. Thanks to user RG09874 on the TV forum, I realized something. This show isn't lost media. At least not in the traditional sense, I don't think. I don't know, I'm new here. After reaching out to viewer inquiries, RG was told that the show is simply on the ITV archive, a directory of old shows that had been produced by or aired on any of the ITV channels, including CITV. But why are the episodes missing, then? well, the ITV archive is only accessible to ITV employees or industry professionals, or available in full for a small licensing fee of £579. This is just a case of paywalling, and nobody has had the means or care to fork over so much money for the show, especially considering it only had one season. Den of Doom was never lost, and there's no conspiracy here. This show was just neglected. And if Grizzly Tales taught me anything, it's that there's nothing scarier than neglect. Okay, Halloween wasn't really a thing for me growing up. I know some people can relate to this, but my parents used to call it too American worth celebrating. So shows like this were my own little Halloween. And there were plenty of other shows that could be considered British kids' horror, like The Spartacle Mysteries, a show about kids who wake up and discover that everyone older than 15 has gone missing. Or that one episode of Doctor Who where people have their faces stolen. Ugh! But I'm shaking in my little boots right now. I'm too spooked to keep thinking about this stuff. I'm just gonna go and watch something more cheery, like hit 2001 film Monkey Bug, starring Brendan Fraser and Chris Kattan. And in fact, I suggest you do the same. Right now. Go. Shoo. Go and do that.
Here I come, baby. I'm coming to get you.